Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul-u-tions Podcast. My name is Tara Simkins, and today we are going to be talking about intentionality. It's a question that I get a lot from people, which is, how can I remain intentional in connection with XYZ? So if you ever ask yourself that question or wonder how other people do it, then this is the episode for you. And if it's something that you are curious about, it's for you as well. Really, the episode's for everybody. I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find solutions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
So today I had the great fortune, I have a little itch on the corner of my eye, but today I had the great fortune of speaking with a group of women with the Southern Sea Collective. And it's a really great group of women all across the South who are entrepreneurs starting their own businesses, and they come together, have a live event in Sea Island every year. And they all set up these beautiful swag stations where you can buy their beautiful earrings or learn more about all the things that they offer. And I do so much appreciate the founders of the Southern Sea, Sherry and Whitney, for building a community and a space for women who are interested in creating something in the world, creating a business, and developing a network of supportive women. So I was asked to speak in their membership today, and they said, listen, this is the topic we want you to speak on, which is being intentional in 2024, how to cultivate your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being with yours truly. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to share with them about intentionality, I really boiled down to three things. One, and this is going to be the framework for today's podcast. One is intentionality is not something else that you need to add to your to-do list. You are a human being. You're listening to this podcast. The women who were on the call today with the Southern Sea, they're intentional. You're the kind of person who is thoughtful and wants to bring your best to whatever it is that you're doing. So you are intentional by nature, and I want you to know that. The second thing is really then taking this idea of intentionality and creating a lifestyle from it. You are really want to dive into the value system that you have of being intentional, and then letting that value system radiate out into all areas of your life. So in doing this, I shared with them how I came to really decide that I wanted to live my life with intentionality. I think it had always been part of my nature, back to point number one. It really had always been part of my nature. And I was a very prayerful person, an intentional person. But I had took it to the next level when I was, in my late 30s with 3 children under the age of 6 and practicing law full time in a marriage. And there were so many things that I wanted to do well in my life, and there was only so much of me. And so I really found that deciding to be intentional was a way that could help me carve away the noise, the things that I couldn't control. By being intentional, it was an invitation to lean in to the things that I could control. And so I shared with the ladies in the class today that I think that the Serenity Prayer is the perfect example of what it means to live an intentional lifestyle. And that's becoming aware, challenging yourself to become aware with knowing the difference between the things you can control and the things that you cannot control, and then leaning in to the things you can control and letting go of the things that you can't control. In its essence, I think that is what being intentional is in life. So many times we are pulled into try to change things, people, places, things, ideas that we have no influence over, no control over. You have no control over, for example, what another person thinks about you. You have no control over what I was sharing with these women who own businesses, whether or not someone buys something from you. You have no control over how your husband hears your question at the dinner table, whether he takes it, whether he's had a good day, a bad day, whether he's tired, whether your tone of voice just hits him at the wrong spot. But what you do have control over, if we just go with that last example, is learning a little bit more of what is your tone of voice? How are you speaking to people? How are you approaching people? What are your triggers? Are you tired? Have you had a long day? Do you need some rest or something? And when it comes to being intentional, I think one of the things with regard to our goals and our dreams and those things that are important to us in the world is to take the time on a regular basis to check in with ourselves and to see what's working, what's not working, and what we want to do differently. And I have recorded a podcast for y'all before on what we call in the Soul-u-tions Labs, the 25-5-3 tool. And as I shared with these women today, it is such a sexy title for this tool that, I mean, it's catchy. It rolls off your tongue. I am being a bit facetious here, but I call it the 25-5-3 because the tool is simply this. List 25 things that are working in your life, 5 things that aren't, and 3 things you're going to do differently. And if you can do this on a regular basis, then you will be living an intentional life. And that's what we do every Friday in the Soul-u-tions Labs. We meet at 11 o'clock every Friday morning. We come together, kind of have a little catch up, and then we get into the work of checking in with ourselves to see how we are living in relationship with the goals that we set for ourselves, or our word of the year, something that is a meaningful growth edge for us in this year. And for these women, and I am recording this podcast episode on the first Tuesday of March in 2024. And, that's a great time. The first of any month is a great time to check in with yourself and how you're doing in relationship with the things that you said on December 31st or January 1st were the most important things for you to do this year. Because we all know what happens. Like, we set these intentions at the beginning of the year. We set these goals. We have these big ideas of what we're going to get done in a year. And we get to what they call January 12th, National Quitters Day. And we run out of steam. And then life happens. Life happens. Somebody gets sick. You get a leak in your roof, and all of a sudden your kitchen has to be redone. Somebody has a flat tire. I mean, there are a million things that happen that pull your attention away from your intentions. And you cannot control any of those things. But what you can control is bringing your attention back to focus on your intentions. And this is why in the Soul-u-tions Labs, we do this every week at the same time, every Friday at 11 a.m. We just have it on our calendars. And for those members, which I mean, over half of them can't attend live, they have scheduled in their calendar the exact same time every week to do this. Now, are we batting 100% on that? I doubt it. I mean, I'll tell you, I there are I do not teach the second Friday of every month. So there are 12 Fridays out of 52 Fridays that I'm not meeting to do this evaluation. However, there are 40 Fridays, give or take maybe another 2 or 3 here or there, where I do it. And just think about this, the difference in your life if you did it every other week, if you checked in with yourself every other week or even every month at the same time, that would give you 12 to 26 more times that you are touching base with yourself and seeing what is working with how I'm living in relation to these goals, what's not, and what I'm going to do differently. Okay, so I'm going to do with you what I did with them. Now, these are going to be a little bit of the rules here. It's always, always, always worth repeating. We begin with what is working. This is an intentional part of the design of this tool. The reason is we all have a negativity bias in our brains. We are human beings and we have evolved to avoid dangerous things. And in order to do that, we needed to keep what was dangerous, what wasn't working, top of mind. So that was great back in the day when we were living out on the savannah, exposed to all these dangers. But in 2024, we don't live in that type of a dangerous situation. We are safe. If you're listening to this, you are living in a place that's safe. You have food, you have shelter. So we don't have to stay in that hypervigilant state of always going into what's not working first. In fact, we want to do the opposite. We want to begin to build this feeling of being supported by all of the things that are going well in the world. And not only do we want to feel supported by the things that are going well in the world, we want to begin for you to begin to tap into the part you play in creating the things that are supporting you in your life. So, for example, if you have running water in your home, what is the part that you're playing in that? Oh, you have a job, you get a paycheck, you pay for that water, right? So even if it's something like running water, you're doing something in order to have access to it, to put yourself in a position to have access to that. Now, it's such a basic example, but it's so important for you to remember you can do that with anything that you want in your life, anything that you've created in your life. If you have a great job, you put yourself in a position to interview for the job, to get the job, and then you show up consistently and do a good job, right? If you've started your own business, you had an idea and you probably, if you were like me, kept your full-time job while you were developing this idea into something that could support you so that you didn't have to be in that fight, flight, or freeze situation, right? You could depend upon the safety of the salary from the job while you built your business up until it was big and strong enough to take the place of your salary. You have to begin to think about all of the things that you can control and that you do control, and the places that you put yourself, so that you build a deep sense of trust and belief and confidence in yourself, in your own ability to create results out of whatever the situation is that you find yourself in, that you put yourself in this belief system, this sense of deep belief in yourself that no matter what happens, if you lost it all today, you could build it back up as good as it is today, if not better. This is the goal, my friends, and me showing up here week after week in this recording studio. I want you to have that level of trust and belief and confidence in yourself and your God-given abilities and gifts, and also trust and believe and have confidence that you were meant to bring them forth and share them with the world. So all of this is the long way around to say you have to start with what's working first so that you can begin to develop this bigger sense of confidence in yourself and the role that you play in supporting yourself. And then after you do that, you move to 5 things that aren't working. And then we move to 3 things we're going to do differently. Now, because I'm recording this and you are listening to it on your device, this is how this next part is going to go. I want you to either open your notes section on your phone or grab a pencil or pen and a piece of paper or your notebook. And I want you to write this tool down. We're going to do this evaluation either in the notes section or on a piece of paper. And the reason why is this. You need to see the sentences that are in your head. You need to get out what's working out of your head and onto paper so that you can really see that it's real and it's true and it exists. And also the science is very clear that when we write things out, especially with our own hand, we remember them more and they just have so much more of an impact in us. Okay. So you're going to start and you're going to go 1, the first thing that's working, 2, the second thing that's working, and put the numbers there. And then when you get to a number, I just want you to expect this because this happened with the women in the Southern Sea today. They were like, oh, I got to number 2 and I just couldn't think of one more thing that was working in my life. I just so overwhelmed by all the things that need to get done and that aren't working. I just couldn't think of another thing. And this is where all of the beautiful ladies in the lab, in the Soul-u-tions lab, and their wisdom comes in. We started meeting on Fridays during the pandemic. So 4 years ago, we started meeting, and we have been meeting every Friday for the last 4 years at 11 and doing this tool. When we first started in 2020, we were getting like stuck at number 2 as well. We had to learn. It's like a muscle, learning to see what is working in your life, learning to feel supported in your life. To be able to feel that way, you have to put the reps in of looking for it, of challenging yourself to find more and more things. And so this is my recommendation. When you get to that place that you just can't think of anything else that is working, circle the number and then take a deep breath. Put your hand over your heart and look at what you've already written down and say, okay, is there any way that I can break that one thing that's working into more things that are working? Quick example, my nephew called my brother and sister-in-law at 4 a.m. this morning from Spain to let them know that his credit card wasn't working. And of course, like, you want to go to, oh my gosh, what's not working? But instead we could go to, he had a phone, his phone was working. He was able to call his parents. They answered the phone at 4 a.m. That's a pretty big deal. They were able to access what they needed at 4 a.m. to get the people to, approve the credit card for international travel, blah, 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 blah. even if they didn't, there's this thing called Venmo. He has friends. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like all of these things that were working in his favor. There's the internet, there's cellular, blah, blah, blah. Like, there are a million things working in our favor. And I think it goes back to that Einstein quote that either nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. And we want you to get you living into this experiencing of your life as more of a miracle than not. So make the circle and then challenge yourself to break the thing down. And then if you get to another place, make another circle and then just go with what's easy. Gravity's working, the running water's working, electricity, just anything. Your hands are working. You are able to tie your shoelaces today. Anything counts. Anything counts. All right. So I am going to ask you now to hit pause on this podcast and go ahead and fill that out. And when you're ready, when you finish number 25, or you have just gotten to really as far as you could, give yourself some grace, knowing that this is a muscle that does require reps and that you'll come back to it next week. Hit the play button and I'll give you the instructions for the next part. Okay, congratulations. Seriously, you did it. You named at least one thing and hopefully pushed yourself to as close to 25 things that are working for you in your life as you could. So just take a minute to just, hands over your heart, unless, of course, you're driving or operating heavy machinery. And just take a moment just to feel the deep pleasure and support of that. All right. Now, with this broadened perspective, we're going to intentionally constrain yourself to only list 5 things that aren't working. And if you didn't get to 25 things that are, then I'm going to limit you to 3 things that aren't working. I want you to intentionally constrain. Now hit pause again and then hit play when you finish that one. All right. Well done, my friends. Now it's time to think about 3 specific things that you want to do differently. Remember, we're talking about in relation to the intention that you set for yourself at the first of the year. So no matter where you are in the what's working and what's not working category, I want to suggest this, that the first thing that you do differently is pick one thing on the what is working list and double down on that. I think this is such an underutilized opportunity for all of us. We usually miss it because we still are like, that negativity bias. We got to go straight into what's not working. It is so much easier to leverage what isn't working because of the momentum that you have, the confidence you have, all of those things, and double down on something there than it is to start over with something that isn't working. So pick one of the first of the 3 is to double down on one thing that is working. And that's what you're going to do differently. And now pick 2 other things that you're going to do differently. Hit the pause button and then play again when you finish that. Okay. Now you are back on track, right? You're back on track with the goal that you set for yourself on December 31st and January 1st. You know exactly where you are in relationship to where you want to be by the end of the year. And you know 3 next steps that you are going to take over the course of this week until you come back to, and I'm going to say 11 o'clock on Friday to evaluate again. And I was thinking about this on my walk over, because I did walk over to the podcast studio today from my neighborhood. And I was thinking about the power of you joining in with all of the women in the Soul-Shine Labs who are already meeting at 11 a.m. to do this work. Even if you're not in the labs, what I want you to know is still do it at the same time that we are doing it. There's something powerful about the collective consciousness and joining in with another group of like-minded, like-hearted people that share in this desire to stay in relationship to the goals that they set out for themselves at the beginning of the year. And when we were going through all of my son's transplants, we would have these days of prayer on transplant days. And people were all over the world praying. And so we set 2 times, 12 p.m. Eastern time and 6 p.m. Eastern time. No matter where you were, where you lived, you worked off of one of those times. And it was so amazing because we could feel on our end in that room with Brennan, who of course was the beneficiary of all of those prayers, as was his medical team. Like you could feel the power, you could feel it coming from all over the place, the love, the prayer, just the collective intention. And so while I was walking here today, I was like, you know what would really be cool is if you just claimed that time for yourself as well once a week, 11 a.m. on Fridays, Eastern time, wherever you are, just do the math from that, and you will be plugged into us. You will be plugged into our community. And I'll tell you what we'll do on our side of things. We will, like what we do in the prayers of the faithful in Mass, we will just and for your special intentions as well, we will include that thought in our class so that we can be connected on that. I do offer this as a freebie on my website, so make sure that you go to tarasimkins.com and put your name into joining my email list, and you will get a PDF that you can follow through for yourself. This is kind of pretty, and it'll just give you a format to follow to make it easier on you. And then just take that calendar out and set a repeating weekly appointment for you. I just can't thank you enough for being who you are, for even wondering how can I be more intentional in my life? The fact that you even have that question is such, I don't know, it's just such a special thing that you have that deep desire within you to be intentional in your life. And I just want to reflect that back to you, that's very, very special. And I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. So until next time, really have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.
'Cause I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibility.